We continue the reflection on our history as we observe Heritage Week. Hello, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Welcome to Jamaica Magazine. Today we'll be journeying to Spanish Town to research a building that stands at the crossroad of history and a living monument to Jamaica's freedom from slavery's shackles. And later, we'll live the struggle for political independence through one of its greatest champions. Then we will be talking with a few everyday heroes, so please stay with us.
Good day, I'm Theodore Henry, and this is your JIS News for Thursday, October 13. Government is taking immediate steps to enact legislation to once and for all clear the criminal record of some of Jamaica's national heroes and other freedom fighters who helped clear the pathway to the country's modern democracy. Minister of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport, Olivia Grange, made the announcement in Parliament yesterday, a few days before the country celebrates National Heroes Day. The legislation will directly affect national heroes Paul Bogle, Samuel Sharp, and Marcus Garvey, as well as freedom fighter Tacky.
The view has been widely held that the acts for which these national heroes were convicted were not criminal acts of rebellion or treason, but acts of liberation with abundant moral justification carried out in the best tradition of humanity.
And that, the minister says, is what promoted the decision to provide a statutory pardon or expungement rather than a royal pardon, which suggests that a criminal act was indeed committed, but the individual is being forgiven.
This government is of the view that our heroes should be pardoned by the state as a means of blunting the edge of the sword of injustice and as a symbolic recognition of their struggle. Essentially, a statutory pardon would have the effect of saying that our national heroes did not commit any criminal offense, as the acts cannot be construed as criminal in the first place.
At the same time, the Culture Minister says the administration will be vigorous in its support of the global move to expunge the criminal record of Marcus Garvey in the United States. The Economic Growth Council is to meet with the country's leading financial institutions in an effort to improve entrepreneurs' access to financing. It's one of 8 growth-inducing recommendations that the council presented to a meeting of cabinet a few weeks ago. Chairman Michael Lee Chin says that in short order, the council will host a roundtable discussion with leading funding agencies such as the Exim Bank and the Development Bank of Jamaica. He was speaking on JIS TV's Issues and Answers program.
So we're going to call a meeting and say, look, hither to now, you've been all working on this in your different various silos, not cross-pollinating ideas, right? As today, what we want to do is to come up with one plan that's put together by all 7 of you entities. So we now have to work together to come up with that one plan.
He says the proposal coming out of those discussions will be reviewed and then implemented with the guidance of the Council. The Economic Growth Council was established in April of this year with a mandate to drive economic growth. Cabinet has given approval to begin the divestment process for Wigton Wind Farm in Manchester.
Approval was also given for the commissioning of the valuation of the Wigton Wind Farm Limited by reputable third-party evaluators.
The Education, Youth and Information Minister was addressing this week's post-cabinet press briefing. He said approval was also given for the engagement of a financial transaction structure advisor who will make recommendations for maximizing returns for the government. The Betting, Gaming and Lotteries Commission, BGLC, is urging persons to report illegal gambling through Crime Stop's 311 toll-free line. The 311 toll-free line allows members of the public to make anonymous reports. BGLC's partnership with Crime Stop will offer persons cash rewards of up to $25,000 if they provide information on illegal gambling that results in an arrest and charge. According to the Commission's Director of Licensing and Registration, Maurice Thompson, illegal gambling contributes to organized crime in the country. He says it also inhibits the growth of the legal industry and deprives the state of tax funds that would have normally gone towards critical projects, such as those administered by the Chase Fund.
When illegal activities takes place that undermines this pool of funds, we see it affects Jamaica in more ways than one. When our athletes leave next year for a World Championship, Chase is one of the first places they go to for funding. All these basketball, tennis courts you see built in inner city communities, it's the Chase Fund that is primarily responsible. A lot of new wings built at hospitals, Chase is also responsible.
Mr. Thompson was speaking at a JIS think tank on October 11. And finally, the Caribbean Examinations Council has released the Caribbean Secondary Education Certificate (CSEC) results for Caenwood High and other schools that failed to submit their students' SBAs on time. The affected students received ungraded results in a number of subjects. But following the intervention of the Education Ministry, Portfolio Minister Senator Ruel Reid says hard copies of the results were delivered to the Overseas Examinations Council on Monday. Arrangements are being made to have affected schools collect them.
In the meanwhile, we have asked CXC to provide us with soft copies of the results so we will be able to audit for any possible omissions.
Minister Reid was addressing this week's post-cabinet press briefing. The issue affected 131 students from Caenwood High School, 27 from Portmore Community College, 26 from Haile Selassie High, 118 at Manning's Evening School, and 28 from St. Vincent Stramby Catholic School. To help identify and prevent similar anomalies in the future, the Education Ministry has established a monitoring mechanism to track students' registration information for overseas examinations. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Theodore Henry. Thanks for watching.
The JIS Heritage Competition is back. Enter your essay, poster, or photo and win big prizes. If you're aged 9 to 12 years, enter the essay competition and tell us who is your favorite Jamaican sportsman or sportswoman and why. High school students, enter the poster competition. This year's theme is Jamaica's Rich Sporting Heritage. If you're a tertiary level student, enter the photo competition. This year's theme is I Am a Sports Champion. Competition closes for all 3 categories on November 6. Get started now. For information on submission and competition guidelines, visit our website at jis.gov.jm, call 926-359-024, extension 2137, or send an email.
Did you know that the PHILLIPPO Baptist Church in Spanish Town holds a part of our emancipation story? It's one of the landmarks across Jamaica that symbolizes the movement to end slavery in this Caribbean gem. Watch this.
It was our own national hero, the Right Excellent Sam Sharp, an enslaved man and a freedom fighter who said, "I would rather die upon yonder gallows than live in slavery." That sentiment was also shared by many other slaves. But the fight for freedom and the hope for victory brought liberation to many. Right here in Jamaica, the movement to end slavery was very active, and landmarks across the island document this part of our history.
We are on the Emancipation Trail, and we're looking at the symbolic parts of Jamaica which relate to emancipation, a very important change of status in our country. We're here in the PHILLIPPO Baptist Church compound in Spanish Town. Spanish Town is a very old city, founded in 1539, I believe. And this particular site was where the Baptists created a congregation in 1818. And this church, built by the Baptists at the time of Reverend PHILLIPPO, was part of the congregation that was very supportive of the move to emancipate all enslavement. And that is a magnificent building going back probably close to 200 years. This church is very historic. Right here, under this tamarind tree, and identified by this plaque, is the slave chains which were buried on August the 1st, 1838. And it is now my pleasure to introduce Deacon Ivan O'Connor, a member of this congregation, who is going to tell us some more about this very historic site and its relationship to emancipation.
I understand that part of the Declaration of Emancipation was read from the steps of this church. And a deep hole was dug right here, and all the chains that were available were put in there and covered. And a tamarind tree was put there as a monument. I understand that the first tamarind tree was destroyed by the 51 hurricane, but it was replaced. And it stands here now as a monument where people can come and get tamarind and remember the slavery chains.
And touch the monument.
Right.
As part of our experience.
Right, it is here as
of
a reminder.
What emancipation was all about.
Right.
But I also think we have to remind ourselves that the original official declaration was read from the steps of King's House,
That's
the facade which is still in front of the square.
That square is Emancipation Square, which is also in Spanish Town and just a few meters away from the PHILLIPPO Baptist Church. Here was once the town center. Other important buildings in the square include the Old House of Assembly, Rodney's Memorial, and the Old Courthouse. The area was severely damaged by fire, as well as the 1692 earthquake, but parts of the buildings have since been restored and put to use. Back over at the PHILLIPPO Baptist Church,
we want to reaffirm how important the Baptist movement and denomination was to emancipation. They were major players in persuading the English government to declare free at last, emancipation on the 1st of August, 1838.
And it is believed that the chains of slaves were buried at the PHILLIPPO Baptist Church due to its close proximity to Emancipation Square and the unrelenting movement by the Baptist Church to put an end to slavery.
Somebody said some time ago, how can we write the history of Jamaica without including the Baptists? The Baptists were one of the churches that were very integral to the teaching of the slaves and emancipation. James PHILLIPPO was one of the persons who was integral in getting emancipation for the slaves in Jamaica.
While emancipation was declared for slaves, their conditions were not improved. So the movement for a more just society was challenged by Paul Bogle and George William Gordon. They were also part of the Baptist movement and later became two of our national heroes. As a result of this involvement, Baptist work in Jamaica became an enduring symbol of the church's opposition to slavery and all other forms of injustice.
This building was put up sometime about 1827 thereabout, and has been maintained over time. It's a natural heritage site, and so the National Heritage Trust has control over what happens here. Right after emancipation, James PHILLIPPO established free villages like in Sligoville, in parts of Clarendon, and also in, established churches. So this church is steeped in our history in Jamaica.
Next, we recall the life and service of a man who was born approximately 75 kilometers outside of the former capital, Spanish Town. He was resolute, one of many who fought for Jamaica's independence and also for better treatment of workers. The national flag flies proudly beside the childhood home of the right excellent Norman Washington Manley, symbolizing his status as a national hero and his contribution to Jamaica's journey to nationhood. His involvement in the country's campaign to independence was rooted in his resentment of the lack of rights for the poor working class.
He was a man who devoted much of his life to looking after what we call the underdog. That was one of the things which drove him relentlessly as a political leader.
And his advocacy, which had begun years earlier, took on a more defined role when he rose to lead the newly formed People's National Party in 1938.
We have to see Norman Manley's role in 1938 as a period in which he demonstrated his capacity for reconciliation and negotiation.
As a statesman, Manley refused to be satisfied with the universal adult suffrage in 1944. He had bigger dreams, among them to see Jamaica take full control of its own affairs. So he became deeply involved in the move to develop a new constitution and the fight for full independence from Britain.
Norman Manley believed that the organization of the people in the political parties would be the instrument through the vehicle through which Jamaica would be able to decolonize itself from the dominance of British rule.
He tried to get a constitution that would reflect both the aspirations of the Jamaican people, but would also allow for that system to operate in a harmonious way that would ensure the full participation of the citizenry consistent with a parliamentary democracy.
As leader of the People's National Party, he got his first taste of victory in 1955 when Jamaicans went to the polls.
It was a vindication of all that he had campaigned for. He regarded it as a mandate to put in place programs that would result in the social transformation and the economic growth of Jamaica.
The national hero and chief minister left an extensive legacy. In addition to his role in obtaining universal adult suffrage in 1944, N.W. Manley also founded the National Workers' Union in 1952. 2 years later, in 1954, he led efforts to secure executive powers for elected representatives. It was also under Norman Manley's leadership that Jamaica achieved full internal self-government in 1959, a precursor to political independence that would come 3 years later. With Manley at the helm, the government established the Bank of Jamaica, the Development Bank of Jamaica, and the College of Arts, Science and Technology CAST, now the University of Technology.
And among the indelible contributions which he has made to the entire Jamaican society was the granting of 2,000 free places in secondary schools during the 1950s.
His legacy also includes the Small Business Loan Board, the Jamaica Welfare Limited, now called the Social Development Commission, the Foundation of Youth Service, and the success in securing land tenure for farmers. Manley's dedicated service to Jamaica earned him the Order of National Hero, the highest award to be bestowed on a citizen. Norman Washington Manley led a busy and public life in service to his country. We know he was an athlete, soldier, and brilliant lawyer, but those who knew him admired him for other reasons. Undoubtedly, Norman Washington Manley was devoted to excellence, the fulfillment of purpose, and the promotion of human dignity.
He gave us a confidence in ourselves, a belief that there was nothing that Jamaicans could not achieve, no level of performance beyond their grasp.
Revered as the father of the nation, Manley was an inspiring leader who touched the lives of Jamaicans home and abroad, making an indelible mark internationally and in the region. In his final speech in 1969, he asserted that the mission of his generation was to accomplish political power for the black masses of the people from which he sprang. Mission accomplished, he declared. And having accomplished his mission, Norman Washington Manley died on September 2, 1969.
Stand up and get in the race.
I can become the master of my destiny.
Step up your stride, make we work like a harder. Do it like Veronica, bolt and a supper.
We can rise above the challenges and shine.
Was with passion in your heart. Make a plan and stop all the idling. You think I saw we reach a the aging. I can, you can. Like our Olympians, every Jamaican can.
Let's now look at some of our everyday heroes, persons making a difference in areas such as education, health, media, and sports.
Each year in October, Heroes Day to be exact, persons from various career and professional fields are given recognition by the government for their service and contribution to Jamaica. These are individuals who've made a meaningful and significant impact on national life. For the recipients, it's usually a humbling occasion. And on that special day, family and friends are eager to share in the celebration. We look back at some of those moments from 2015.
Professor Leah Riney, the first woman to become both Deputy Principal 1996 to 2002 and Principal 2006 to 2007 at the University of the West Indies, Mona. She has shown a strong commitment to public service in the field of education.
I'm very honored, of course, and excited and pleased and proud and all the positive things that you could imagine. I think that when I reflect, when I started out in teaching, I never really expected that anything like this would happen, and you don't really work for a reward. The work itself is a reward.
Professor Graham Roger Surgeon for sterling contribution to sickle cell research in Jamaica and worldwide.
It's very nice to see the work on sickle cell disease recognised. I think what is important to realise, and obviously the Jamaican government does realise this, is the tremendous contribution that the small island of Jamaica has made to the worldwide management of sickle cell disease.
Through his 37 years of work at the Sickle Cell Unit at the University of the West Indies Mona campus, he's made such a difference in the lives of many of those afflicted with the disease.
This is a tribute to our patients, but also to the suitability of Jamaica as an island for long-term studies of the disease.
National awards is important, yes? Because it basically recognizes people that are doing work or being exceptional in whatever field or whatever role they play in a society. it's good to be appreciated and recognized whatever it is you do. Especially people who are like go above and beyond with regards to the medical field, the security field.
The Medal of Honor for Gallantry, the Jamaica Defence Force. Staff Sergeant Orion Orlando Archett on Saturday, 9th of May, at approximately 1 p.m. Whilst in the vicinity of Craig Hill, Staff Sergeant Archett noticed a large fire advancing towards several houses in Lower Craig Hill. Without any consideration for his own safety, immediately marshaled some bystanders and sought to navigate the steep and treacherous terrain amidst the flames to rescue the trapped residents.
With all of these issues, leadership comes into play, and it is ideally important that amidst all the chaos, somebody must be there to mobilize persons who are willing to effect the job at hand. I must give credit to my former commanding officer, because that's Colonel Jamie Ogilvie. And it is something that he would instill in the men and women under his command, that duty first, duty to human being is important. So this is something that is cultured and inbred in my unit.
For outstanding service in the field of media and communications. Honorable Mrs. Justice Marjorie Sidoni Cole-Smith for distinguished service to the judiciary and the legal profession.
I feel very proud to know that my country has recognized me for my years of service, which is over 50 years.
It's very humbling. You go out to work and try to do your best all the time, and then to be recognized nationally for it is a very humbling position to be in. But it's also very rewarding for the profession, because I see this more as something recognizing the media and the role that we play.
Mr. George Michael Michael Henry. Mrs. Novlin Hilaire Williams Mills. Mr. Joseph Brian Hobbs for over 30 years service to Jamaica through the Farm Work and Hotel program.
I feel very privileged and honored to get this award. Like I said, I wouldn't be here today getting this award if it wasn't part of those Jamaican farm workers. They were a major part of that.
You know, it's a good thing, because it's what you really merit. You really, get.
It means so much to me for my country to recognize what I've been doing all these years, and for them to, give me this award. It means so much to me.
That's how we close the pages of Jamaica Magazine for today, but another edition will come your way tomorrow. Until then, just connect to our website, jis.gov.jm, and while you're online, send your feedback to Jamaica Magazine at jis.gov.jm or a tweet at JIS News. On behalf of the entire production crew, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Thanks for watching.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.